Hello, watercolor artists. Today, we're going to talk about painting basic forms in watercolor. I'm going to put a little light source in the corner of my page. Here's my little bright sun. Pretend it's a sunny day. It's not. And I'm going to draw these forms. So first of all, this is not a drawing lesson, it's a painting lesson. So I'm just going to draw a square to the best of my ability. And then I'm going to draw 3 diagonal lines that are as close to the same diagonal and the same length as possible. And then I'm gonna make the back one, like connect those by making them parallel to the front. Something like that. If you wanna pause and, make it perfect, cool. Then I'm making a cylinder. I need 2 vertical lines, almost like I'm making a rectangle. I'm gonna curve the bottom and make a super low, thin oval on top. For a cone, I start by making a triangle with a curved bottom, my basic forms. And then a sphere. Just do the best you can. It's gonna be, not a perfect circle. Not so bad. Not so bad for me. Sometimes my circle is not so perfect, but that's okay. So I have a cube, a cylinder, a cone, and a sphere. And I'm gonna work on making them basic geometric forms looking 3D using watercolors, which is not always so easy because my watercolors, they tend to want to, move and do some different things. So this is really an exercise in washes, in making washes, flat washes and graded washes or gradients. What I'm doing right now is I'm getting each of my colors wet with just a dab of water so that they start to soften a little bit. And because I know I want flat areas of color here, I want to create a flat wash, right? Now this is the closest to the sun, the lightest, the brightest, so that's going to be my lightest. So I need just a little bit of color there. And I want it to be a flat wash again, remember? So what do? We do a flat wash. We make the area wet to start. So I'm just going to wet this top section so I can get a nice clean color. And I'm coming up to my edge. You don't have to do your outlines in a big thick marker. I'm using a Sharpie because a permanent marker won't move with the paint. A non-permanent marker likely will. Let's see here. Let's do a little orange for this guy. I need just a little tiny bit because this is bright, right? And white in watercolor is more water. So I'm just going to go over this. Now that I've added those nice clean edges, I just come close to them. And I'm getting a little puddling, so maybe I take a little water off my brush. And I go like this. I still want an edge that's straight. I still want a straight line, but I'm not going to come quite, I'm picking up a little paint there is what I'm doing. I'm not going to come quite to that edge because I want to show the edge. Remember, if I have 2 parts that touch each other and they're both wet at the same time, then they're going to blend, which is the fabulous thing about watercolor, but not if I don't want it to. So now on this side, let's go here. This is probably my darkest because it's furthest away from the sun. So this is, I'm going to call my medium value, and I'm going to make a flat wash there. So I'm going to do the same thing. I have a clean brush, clean water, and I'm going to wet the surface. And by doing this, I'm kind of preparing it to make one even color. Not kind of, I am preparing it to make one even color. So I'm going to make clean edges like before, like so. And now I need a little more color. So I'm going to go back to my orange. I'm going to add more. I want a little more water. I got to fill a little more space on this time. Let's see how that goes. That looks like it could be a nice medium value. Oh, look at that. Yes. I like it when it spreads out. It's like, cool things happen. This is darker than that first value, so that's good. And it's not going on very even right away, is it? That's okay. Because remember, the cool thing about watercolors, if I have this wash underneath, I can kind of even it as best I can, but it's going to continue to even itself. So I'm just going to go like this, maybe give it a good once over, and then I'm going to let that create its own little wash. Pick up some of the biggie blobs, but not too much. Now I'm on to my third side. You can see I left a little bit of an edge, but I left it straight. So I get a nice clean edge again, not quite touching there, because I'm practicing my washes and making a flat edge. I didn't do a good job cleaning my brush this time. There's still a little bit of paint on it, but at least that way you can see it. Normally I'd want it to be really clean. Now I'm getting some nice darker color in there. Still watery, but it's darker. So now as I come in and add this color, I'm careful not to go over and change those edges, but I want to make sure I have a different value. So that looks pretty good. There we go. All right, so I have light, medium, dark on my cube. 3 flat washes. I'm gonna let those kind of clean up themselves. I'm gonna clean my brush real good. And now I'm gonna start to mix colors, because even when I'm playing like this and I'm practicing, I like to get to know my colors and know what they're gonna do to mix. So I want this to be a graded wash, because I gotta go smooth change because it's a curved object. Still a wash though. Looks like there's something in my water cup. I think I must have not cleaned it well enough. It is a good idea to dump your water and clean it before the next time, because what's happening right now, there's some little crusties on the bottom of it, and they're starting to get into my water here. Should have washed it out when I was done painting the other day. All right, so I've done a nice even coat of water on my cylinder. Now, like I said, I'm gonna mix some colors. I wanna see what I can get. So how about a blue-green? Okay, I like blue-green, sure, that'd be great. Just to practice, just to see what it looks like. Just to get used to my colors. So that's a pretty nice dark color right there. Now I have it all wet, so it will start to move like we saw on these washes. I'm gonna start over here, because it's gonna be darkest away from the light. And I'm gonna do one long line all the way down the cylinder. And I probably could have gotten a little more paint on my brush here. I'm gonna do that again. There we go, because I want a nice dark color. Now, as I do this, I want it to be a smooth change. It's already doing some of the work for me, which is fabulous, but I want it to come over just a little bit more. So I'm gonna just go down all the way from the top to the bottom a few times. And you see how just because the water is there and the brush is losing its paint as I go over it, it's actually lightening for me. So by going full strokes all the way down the cylinder, it's like I'm creating this line. Now a little bit's kind of picking up at the bottom, so I'm going to clean up my brush a little, just lift a little of that. Not going to worry about it too much. If I felt like it was coming too far, I could clean my brush really well, get all the color out of it. Yep, still not quite clean. Let's get it clean. Is it clean yet? Ugh. Wow. I'm not going to dab it in the bottom of my cup. I'm just going to go on the side. I don't know what that crud is. There we go. So now I could not, I'd really rather leave this alone. My general rule with watercolor is leave it alone when you get so, but I want to show you another option. I could come back with the plain, clean water and then move this way if I felt like it was getting too dark to bring it over. But as I do that, I'm starting to get a line. So I gotta go all the way over to make it consistent. And then again, I'm gonna pick up some of these little dabs on the bottom. Not much. Again, control. I'm not gonna do the top yet. That's gonna be light. So I don't want it to mix. See how it's starting to leak in there? I'm gonna leave it alone for a little bit. All right, I clean my brush. Look clean. Yep. Checked my paper towel, looks clean. Let's move to the cylinder. All right, so this time I got some of this. What if I put some purple in this color? Oh, that is some dark purple. Oh, I didn't wet it. Oh, forgot that part. Cleaning my brush. Cleaning my brush. Once again, so I get nice, clean. Yes, that looks clean. So I'm gonna get water on there, because remember, these are all exercises and washes. We learned the techniques last time. Now, putting them to use. And the next step after this is to basically make these forms, but into something, like how a cylinder can be a tree trunk, or a sphere can be a blob of leaves, or a bush, or something like that. We're gonna apply it to landscape. But first, let's figure out what the forms will do. All right, so now, this is wet. I'm gonna mix up my color a little bit. All right, that's a nice blue-violet, I like that. It's a little bit on the, I want a little darker, so you can really see the color change. There we go. Let's do a little more. Okay, now light sources from here. So I start my color over here. You ready? This is the darkest part, so I'm actually going to start here. I'm going to go up. Oh, that's not enough color. It needs to be a little darker for me to see what I want. Wow, ugh, there we go. That's dark. All right, here we go. Bring that up. then I'll bring this over, and same kind of thing where I'm gonna bring it this way, but there's not as much room to blend over here, is there? So I'm gonna let this do some of the work itself. I'm gonna clean my brush. It would move more if I'd wet this a little more than I did. So let's see what happens if I wet it some more. Ooh, that's really wet. And just kind of play. I would guess you're gonna need to do a bunch of these. So now this is wet. This is real wet here, and this has got more color in it. So I'm gonna let these colors kind of blend together. Just get this on here, and they'll start to move together. I don't need to do a whole lot, because watercolor is wonderful, how it just likes to like make friends with the other watercolor parts around it. I'm just gonna let it blend. So I brought the two together, the light and the dark, and I'm gonna let those start to move. Now, the sphere, over here to the sphere. Let's see, let's do something reddish this time, because I haven't done anything with the red. That could be fun. I want a good amount of color. We'll do some red-orange, very reddish red-orange. That should work. What did I forget? You forgot to do the water on the sphere. Oh, thank you. That was my pretend student right there. I don't know if you caught that. What's wrong with me? I'm forgetting real important parts. All right, is it clean? It's clean. So now I'm gonna wet this, and I'm gonna put a good amount of water on here. Oh, I went over my edge. I'm starting to hurry. I'm gonna take my time, be careful. Edges, tips with edges. If you actually rest your hand on your page, and then, because we're shaky movie people, everybody is. But if you rest your hand, you can get a steady edge. And then I don't want puddles. I'm starting to get a few puddles. But I just want an even area of color. An even area of water, I should say, not color. Okay, so there's my nice even area of color. I got my paint here. Got a good amount. It's still flowy, right? But if I go like this, I can see it's transparent. Watercolors are meant to be transparent, so I have my nice red-orange. There's my light source. So I'm gonna start with the darkest, my fresh brush away from the light source. And I'm gonna put this on here. Look at that, it's already flowing for me. How nice is that? Not sure why that requires an accent. But then I'm gonna start to come around the side. And usually with this sphere, there's like one highlight as the light hits it. And then around the back, kind of as it moves away, we start to see just a little bit of an edge here. All right, so I'm gonna put this in here. Let's get a little more color around this edge. There we go. And it's gonna blend itself and flow together, because that's the fabulous thing watercolors do. But I want this to be a little more gradual. So let's get some paint off the brush. Still a little bit on it, but there's a lot of water there. I can see by the way it's flowing. So I might just take a little bit, and I'm just gonna go around that circle again a couple times, just to help it kind of flow in there. Maybe I can go back and forth a little if I need to. Make it a nice gradual change. And again, watercolor will even itself out because it's fabulous like that. And I'm going to take a little bit more paint off my brush, clean it up a little more, make sure it's clean. So it's just water, and I'm going to put just a little water. There was a little more water than I wanted on the brush, just a little bit in here so that it can all blend together. Now, I'm very tempted to go back in and fix this a little bit and do all these things. No! Leave it alone. Just let it start to go on its own. We can come back and talk about shadows and things later, but I want this to dry. This is getting a little bit of an edge. This one where I went in rows worked a little better. If this had been a little more wet, that would flow in a little more. But for right now, I don't want to overwork it. I'm going to leave it. I can come back with just a teeny touch of green if I wanted. Now that this is a little more dry, I still want to be careful, and I could add just a light top edge there. That's more than I want. If you get more than you want, take your brush after you've blotted it dry and then go back over it to take some of the color, the paint, or the water off. There. So I have cube, sphere, cone. No. Did I say sphere? Oh my, I'm losing it. Cube, cylinder, cone, sphere. That one's bothering me. But it was practice. This is practice. Practice is just for fun. Just leave it alone, right? We're practicing. You can do more if you want. Make them big enough though. Notice these fill almost half the page. Make them big enough to fill half the page. This is essentially what we did in class today. For those of you who were gone, practice out of forms. If you got to do a couple before you feel comfortable, okay, it's practice. I do not expect perfection. I do expect trying. Thank you so much.